everyone, I'm Michael Parsley. This is Nathan Russell. I met Nathan on our public land turkey hunts that we put online this past spring. We got a couple of more of those that we're going to release, Old Hickory and I think Cheatham, unless Cheatham's already made its way out there. But the whole point of today and those turkey videos is to show everyone that there is public land that's accessible, that's out there, it's ready to go for you. You just have to learn where the public land is that's accessible for you, and then learn how to scout it and then put boots on the ground. And that's what Nathan and I are here to show you how to do tonight. And we'll try and keep it moving pretty quickly. But what I do for the TWRA is I am the Assistant Chief of Communications and Outreach, and I also am what they call the R3 Coordinator. That's just a fancy word for I teach people how to hunt and fish and keep people that are hunting and fishing remaining hunting and fishermen, so hunters and fishermen. So that's what I do for the TWRA, and I believe in this so much that I quit practicing law a year and a half ago. So I had a good job. I was a lawyer and had a pretty good practice, and I love hunting and fishing so much that I stopped doing that and started teaching people how to hunt and fish. So this is my passion. That's why I took this job. And I met Nathan this past spring, and I think this is his passion too. Now, he doesn't work for the agency, but I can tell hunting is his passion. So met Nathan on Percy Priest, hunting Percy Priest, and found out that he grew up in Memphis, grew up hunting in Mississippi pretty much, and every once in a while he would hunt Tennessee as well. And then he took a job in Texas, moved there for several years, and then moved back here to Tennessee, and specifically into the Nashville area, last year, Nathan? Yeah. So he's been here a year, and this is all new to him because he might have grown up in Tennessee, but Memphis, as you know, is kind of a different part of Tennessee, especially Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee. So this is all new public ground for him. He doesn't own a large farm or parcel that he can just go out and hunt. So he had to get busy and learn our public land system. If you have questions, the chat is there for you. Make sure and put your questions in the question and answer or the chat, and we'll get to them. I'm going to let Nathan take a lot of this tonight because I've done a course like this and it's on our YouTube channel. So I wanted Nathan to come on because he's new, and I wanted to show you what his how he found public land himself. So I'll start off showing you how we've revamped the TWRA website to show you public land that's close to you. And so I guess, Nathan, did you want to say anything to start off, or you want to just jump into it?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you for having me, Mike. And guys, and everybody on here, I'm an average hunter. This is a passion of mine that I grew up doing, but I love to hunt, and I had to figure it out. And so, the whole point of today is to show you different things that we have available, that you guys have available, to go out and find good public land, and then also how to hunt it, and some of the tips and tricks that I have. So thank you for being here, and look forward to it. Mike, pass it back to you.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to start off by sharing my screen, and hopefully I've figured all this out, and we've been using Zoom for a while now. So Nathan, do you have that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. All right, guys. So this is our TN.gov website, when you bring it up, it's TN.gov/TWRA. So this is what it looks like. These buttons move around depending on the season, right? So right now we have, a big deal is our ducks, the way that's changed. And I do our weekly fishing forecast with a friend of mine, David Lowry, and we call anglers all over the state and we put what's going on every lake we can find. So if you know somebody and a lake's not listed on there, make sure and you drop me a line and I will put the report in there. So, but we get a great majority of the lakes and we put them on that fishing report. I've also, with our team, tried to revamp our page to make it more user friendly. So, like I told you, I was a lawyer a year and a half ago and I hunted public land solely. So when I tried to find public land, it was pretty difficult if you went to our webpage. It's not that way anymore. So when we came on, we decided to make it easier, and the way I decided to make it easier was to put a button that just said where to hunt. So if you want to find out where to hunt, click on where to hunt, and it brings up a map of the state and all of the agencies' WMAs, which WMAs are all public land. So that plus the federal park, the Smokies. So if you look at this map, you know where you live and what county you live in, but you may not know the name of the WMAs and exactly where the WMAs are and if they're huntable land. And I sought to fix that with our team in outreach and communications, and I think we did. So I grew up in Warren County in McMinnville, Tennessee. And McMinnville, if you grew up there, you know that you grew up on the Cumberland Plateau. You didn't grow up in Middle Tennessee, but you grew up on the Cumberland Plateau. If you grew up in Fayette County, you know you grew up in West Tennessee. So there's West Tennessee. If you grew up in Franklin, you know you grew up in Middle Tennessee. So Middle Tennessee, Cumberland Plateau, and East Tennessee, and we've got what the agency calls those regions underneath there. So the agency calls West Tennessee Region 1, Middle Tennessee Region 2, the Cumberland Plateau, and a couple of other biologically diverse areas, Region 3, and then all of East Tennessee is Region 4. So that's what I've decided to call them what normal people call them so they can find where to hunt. So that's what we set about doing. So if you click on the Cumberland Plateau in Region 3, it brings up the inset map of the Cumberland Plateau, and it also brings up numbers of all the WMAs in Region 3. So I know I grew up, or I lived in Warren County, and all I have to do if I lived in Warren County is look at all the numbers that are close to me that I might want to go and check out. So 326, I know that is Pea Ridge WMA. As a matter of fact, I did a video on Pea Ridge earlier this year, and I know we took a turkey over there. So 326 is Pea Ridge. That is up on Short Mountain in DeKalb County and a little bit in Cannon County. 311 is Edgar Evans WMA. It's on Center Hill Lake. 313 is Fall Creek Falls. 303 is the new one, new to a lot of people. It's old, it's getting older now, but Bridgestone Firestone WMA. So I think we've made this a lot more user friendly for you guys to find WMAs, green areas that are close to where you live right now, just by going to our website and saying, well, I live in Van Buren County, what's close? And so I tried to make it a lot more user friendly to people that just want to just find public land, but they don't know what the name of the WMA is and don't know exactly what the regulation is on that WMA. And all of this is taken care of here. If you go to P Ridge and you clicked on P Ridge, which is 326, it'll bring up information about P Ridge, how to get there, the amount of land that's at P Ridge. And so I think this is a pretty good website to use. So there's 2,000 acres on one portion of the P Ridge WMA, and it gives you specific latitude and longitude coordinates. It also gives you the P Ridge WMA hunting regulations. If you clicked on that, it takes you directly to the page in the hunting guide and tells you what you're able to do on P Ridge. So small game, big game, all of that, same as statewide, except as noted. Okay, so that makes it pretty easy to find public land and to understand what you can do and can't do on that piece of ground. You can also go to our map, which is right here, and there's P Ridge, and you can zoom in on that as far as you want. But Nathan's also going to get into mapping and things like that, right, Nathan?
Yeah.
All right. So that is about as easy as I could ever make finding public land in Tennessee by going to a website, and I think it works really, really well. So you know, I know Nathan's going to talk about Chickasaw here in a little while. I've never been to Chickasaw, but I can tell you I can find out where it is by clicking on 110, and it's right down there in Hardeman County. So I know everything I need to know about Chickasaw other than topography by going to this website. I know how to get there, where it is, what the hunting regulation is. I can go right here and figure it out. So if you're looking for public land, where you live, get on this website and start looking at the orange numbers around where you live. Start clicking on those numbers, learning about that WMA, and then apply the information that Nathan's going to give you right now to find what it is about that WMA that should jump out to you and make it a good place to go. I'll stop sharing, Nathan, and you take over.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. So, you know, Mike showed you where the TWRA website, what you can find on there. And, you know, what I kind of want to do is take you through a step-by-step of how I go about it, how I dissect that land, and how I'm going to hunt it, some of the tips and tricks that I take on hunting public land. And really, at the end of the day, what I also want to do is I want to take the intimidation that sometimes public land can have. I want to take that away and have you guys understand and everyone understand that really you just got to get out there and hunt it and learn it, and you can kill deer and you can kill turkeys off of it. So I'm going to share my screen right now. And really my first thing that I like to do after you'll see my screen?
Got it.
Okay. First thing I like to do once I've kind of looked at the site, realize what's close to me, because one of the things about hunting public land most of the time is I like to find some that are close to me because I might hunt off times. I might just get an afternoon or a quick morning or something like that. And I don't, you know, if I can drive 30 minutes or 45 minutes to a public place, that's going to give me a lot more time to hunt than possibly driving 2 hours or 3 hours. So what I like to do is find 2 or 3 different places. And this is what I did last year when I moved here is I found 2 places that were close to me, and I focused on those. And so you can come to the TWRA Hunters Toolbox. It's go outside, and you can see harvest by county or by WMA.
Is that on the Go Outdoors?
That's on the Go Outdoors.
Go Outdoors. It's on GoOutdoorsTennessee.com, and it's under the harvest reporting. Yeah. And that's where you'll find this toolbox that he's showing you.
So what you're gonna come in here and do is pick start date. So I'm gonna go back to the start of deer season and do till, really, we'll just do the end of January. So, and you can do it by county or you can do it by WMA. Me, because we're looking public land here, I'm going to do it by WMA, and then I'm going to view this report. Now, there's a couple things about this report. One is going to show you the amount of deer killed, which is great. And you want to see those harvest records, but it's not going to give you an idea of how many people were there, but you can kind of start putting the puzzle pieces together. You can start seeing what they were killing. I mean, you look at Catoosa, 173 antlered deer. Now, it's not saying whether they're big deer, small deer, but you know that there's probably a fair amount of bucks, and it looks like there may have been a fair amount of hunters. You can also look at then take that that little bit of info and go look at how much acreage that public land is, and you're also going to kind of figure out, is there going to be a lot of people or not a lot? And so, you know, really what you do is you start learning what you want, but you know, where you're going to hunt, and then come look at this, start putting those puzzle pieces together again. And you can see, like right here, Cordell Hole WMA, 424 deer killed and a lot of does. So you probably have a pretty good opportunity of being successful at this WMA. And so list goes on. And again, I want to show this because I think it's another piece of another tool to have in your toolbox as you're, no pun intended, as you're learning from this. So now you know where you're going to go. You kind of have an idea of how many deer are going to get there, are there, and maybe your success rate. But I really want to show you some of the tools that I use. And I just want you to know all the websites and everything I'm going to show you also all have apps. And honestly, a majority of the time, I'm using the apps more than I'm using my computer. So the first one, it's my favorite. And you know, Mike mentioned I came from Texas when I moved here, and I hunted public land in Texas. And Texas is a really tough state because there's not a ton. And so I had to learn. And this app is called OnX, and I'm sure, and you can see I got a ton of stuff already on here. But I have this drawn out view because I want to show you the layers I use, and then how I go about finding the place and then hunting it. And so, and you can mark it and do everything like that. So let me show you the layers. So you go to map layers, and you would go to layer library. Now, before I even get into this, I want to make, if nobody has this and you want to download this, there are tons. If you watch any hunting shows or anything like that, there's discount codes and different things that you can use. So if you have any favorites, see if they have one. I recommend seeing, because you can get this for the entire country, or you can get this for just the state. So getting back to this, what you would do is you would go to map layers, and then you would go to layer library, and you would look for the state. So I'm looking for Tennessee. You can see I've already actually maximized it. And I go and I add every layer possible. I'll figure out if I need all of them later. And what I'm adding here is huntable lands, private lands, government lands, access points. It's really anything, and it's a great tool. So I go back to my layers. Now you can see Tennessee's dropped under my my layers, and I'm going to expand it. Now you can see everything I have: private lands, government lands, possible access, deer management units, and huntable lands. And for those of you that don't know, OnX started out west, and so there's a lot of stuff in here that might not pertain to a state, but it would pertain to Tennessee, but it pertains to Western states. So it's just something to kind of figure out and really start digging in to the app. So now I've gotten all those, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to go down here to this area right here. Now you can see these little green spots right here. These are the public lands. And if I click on them, here's Chickasaw. It brings up a little window for Chickasaw, highlights it, shows me the boundaries, everything like that. And then it tells me what unit it falls into, how many acres it is. And then if I want to hunt the unit, I can click on hunt unit, and it's going to take me straight to the TWRA website and the public land handbook. So as you dig into this and you start looking at it, you can say, well, what are the rules, regulations on this one? You can do it via the TWRA website. And also when you're on here and you need a quick reminder, you can find it on here as well. So I'll go back to overview, and I've figured out what Chickasaw is. Now I want to go in here and I really want to understand what this public land looks like. Now you can see I've got it right now. I've got it. You have several different ways of looking at these aerial maps. So right now I have a satellite view, but if I go over here and click on the base maps, I can have just the satellite, I can have a hybrid, and I can have a topo. If I click on topo, you can see what I get. It actually, if I were to draw out a little further, I'm going to be able to find the public land easier. I'll just back out. You can see how it really sticks out when you have it just on the topo where the public land is. So, and then just so you're aware, all these little red spots, those are actually private, that's private owned land. So it also gives you private ownership too. But staying on topic, when we look at going back to the hybrid, I'm looking at Chickasaw, and it gives me all the roads within Chickasaw, all the places for access. So when I'm looking at this and how I'm going to hunt it, there's a couple things that I always look for when I'm hunting public land and when I'm hunting deer. And that is, I have a rule of thumb that deer are creatures of the edge. So what are the vegetation lines that I'm looking for? I'm looking for something that is going to be some sort of maybe natural barrier, even man-made barrier, or something that's going to really drive movement. So I'm looking here at Chickasaw, and I can see that there's a lot of access paths. So it might be a lot of places for people to hunt, but also look at how far it is off the main road. And you can see right here, this is probably all going to be four-wheeler paths or walking paths. This is going to be drivable. Where my head's at is I'm really intrigued by this area right here. And the reason I'm intrigued by it is because of these edges, these vegetation edges. And so me showing the tools that are here on X, let's get rid of that. I want to mark this. This is me sitting in my computer or sitting on my phone, just thinking, okay, I like this, or I'm intrigued by this. I'm going to go over to this icon right here. And this is going to give me how to mark it. And I'm going to go and I'm going to move this right there. Now I just put it in a general area. That way, when I'm on my phone, all this is going to transfer to your phone too. I'm able to go in and know kind of where I need to be. And for me, how I do it, I leave this looking just like that until I get over there and scout it. Now, after I've scouted it, maybe I find some sign. I might delete this or move it over to right there. Let's say I find a scrape. I'm going to mark it. I'm going to mark it a color, and then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to look for something that is scraped. And you can see all these options that you have in here. So as my year goes on and I learn a place, I might mark things where I found a hidden pond that ducks are in, and I may go back and hunt ducks there. And I may mark that, or I find a food plot, or I find a food source that seems like a persimmon tree, and I know they're going to hit it early season. I'm going to make a note on that. So let's just say I found a persimmon tree. So I'm going to mark it right there. Now I'm going to go in here and put notes, and I might say early season persimmon. Now, if I found it in December, I'm not going to be hunting a persimmon tree, but I know that early season come bow season, I need to get over there and check it, and I can mark that. and then I save it. And I will do that through an entire public land, through all of Chickasaw. And again, I'll just keep looking at this. Here's the other thing I like to look at is another tool that's great for OnX, is the 3D map. Now, where you have a lot of flat, it may not be as much, but where you have any type of hills, if I can get it to zoom in, it's going to allow me to really see what this topography is doing. And as I'm looking at, again, hunting these deer, we talk about this edge right here, I can see that there's a little bit of a bench here, maybe, right up in here, or maybe something that's going to funnel movement. So that's something else that I really like about the 3D part, is I can get in there and really get a good look at these hills. And again, this is all stuff that I'm just sitting on my computer before I even get boots on the ground.
Hey, Nathan.
Yeah.
I wanted to answer this one question. I had a question on here that asked, are the property lines clearly marked off? And they are both in person and on OnX. So if you get out to a WMA, the property lines are going to be marked with yellow paint. So WMA lines are yellow, and they will normally either be on T-posts stuck in the ground, or they'll be marked on the trees, yellow paint up so high. If you see purple paint, think of purple means private. So it's actually private property purple is the paint that's used on trees to designate purple or private property. So stay away from the purple. The yellow, as long as you're inside that, you're fine. When you look on this map, the private property is specifically designated by all those red lines. Those are private parcels, and some very large parcels around Chickasaw. And then Chickasaw, of course, is inside that green area. So it's clearly marked on OnX. If you can pretty much be pretty safe if you're paying attention to your OnX map. You can download these maps onto your phone, and whether you have service out there or not, it will bring it up and it will track you whether you have service or not. You just have to download the map offline, and it'll save it to your phone, and you're golden. So OnX is about the best tool that any hunter, I think, has ever had. So I use it all the time, especially out on public land, just to make sure you're where you need to be. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, no, you're good and spot on. And again, when it comes to OnX, even when I'm sitting in a stand, I'm still looking at OnX, and I might be looking at something that I know is just 150 yards on the other side, but I'm looking at OnX because there's something over that. Maybe I saw a deer moving through there and I'm going, what is over there that's causing them to move through there? But there's something else I like to do. OnX is probably the app I use the most, but there's a couple other apps that I like to go through. I like to go through Google Earth. I use just about any mapping app, Google Earth, Apple Maps, Google Maps. I might even go and Google search seasonal aerial photos. And the reason I do that is you can get in there. Like if you look at this right now, let's just go over here and look at where the private land, this is going to be at least the summer. It might be, late summer, but everything's green. And so it's hard to tell what the trees are, but you can go and find fall photos of aerial photos of places and go, oh, okay, I see that all the oak trees are orange, and go in there and start really digging. Okay, I know that, okay, there's some oak trees, or there's a grove of oaks, or that's pines. So I would highly recommend using OnX, but then also when you find a place, just digging into some of the other aerial maps that are out there, you might be able to find little tidbits, even, cutover, real short cutover, or new cutover, stuff like that. So So I showed Chickasaw, and I want to show another place because you can see Chickasaw has a lot of access, but I want to show you, I'm going to back out of here a little bit. See if I can get over here. All right, let's go to White Oak. And when you look at White Oak, now, again, I can click on it, tells me how much acreage it is, all that good fun stuff that you'd want to know. But it also tells me where the access points are, and there aren't a ton. So that's, depending on what you're looking for when you're public land hunting, it's gonna, that might dictate how how you're gonna hunt it. I mean, if you want to be able to travel a lot and not hunt far from the car or something like that, Chickasaw might be it. But if you're willing to walk, you have the time, White Oak might be the place to go check out. And here's what I'll say too about public land. You don't have to walk 3 miles into a spot to kill deer. I've done it. And I've been very hot and sweaty and walked out with my head hanging low because I didn't see a thing. And the biggest deer I've ever seen on public land, I could also see my truck. You do not have to walk far. And I think that that's a misconception about public land, is that you feel like you got to walk really far or you got to just wear yourself out to go kill a deer. And that's not the case. So, what I would say is, as you're learning the public land, you also want to understand what other hunters are doing. Opening day of muzzleloader season, on a place might be crowded. It might look like a construction zone. There's so many orange vests. So maybe that's not the day. Maybe that's a great day to go to walk 3 miles and get away from the hunters. Or if you're going to have time later on in the week, go hunt a Tuesday morning or a Wednesday morning. The thing about hunting public land is to be creative about your approach to it. If you have time during the week, hunt. Try to pick an afternoon or a morning to go hunt, even if it's for a couple hours, because you might kill a deer. The other thing is, what's your access? How are you going to access it? If we look here at White Oak WMA, I see that there's a creek through here. Well, if all the people are walking in this way, my access might be through here. And so, or coming off this lake. And again, this is all me just looking from an aerial photo. I want to bring up one more app I use, and I'm going to have to move this real quick. So I use this app called HuntWise. And the reason I like HuntWise is I use it strictly for understanding deer, maybe peak movement times. And this thing's been pretty accurate for me. Peak movement times and wind. And I really want to draw your attention to right here is this map. Now, this map is actually probably right here by my house. But if you see these arrows moving, this is the wind. So you can take and save a spot that you're hunting. And if you know that you're going to be, let's say, accessing it from a creek, well, and that wind's blowing right over that creek, then you know you can walk in there and the deer's not, even if they're deer bedded, they're not going to smell you. The other thing I like about it is you can come over here and you can move the time. Now, if you see right here, this line, this bar right here is not really moving much because it's summer and the deer aren't moving and it's hot. It also, you have these 5 deer heads right here. Let me see if I can scroll up. Mike, can you see this pretty well? Does it seem pretty small?
It seems small, but I get the point. Everybody gets the point, I think.
Yeah, okay, cool. So you can see right here, these 5 deer heads, and it's going to tell you when that peak movement is. So this is an app I like to use a lot. So I just wanted to kind of draw your attention to that. And something I think would be worth downloading. So again, on X, this is kind of how I use on X. Some other things, I talked about the Google Maps. But some other tips and tricks that I use, you know, I talked about hunt off days, but I also look for small out of the way places that might get overlooked. If you're hunting something that has a lot of residential properties, or residents around it, you might find this little nook and cranny of about 5 acres that is thick, or has food in it, or oaks or whatever. And you can get over there and you might be the only person that ever hunts there. Or at least that year, and you can see deer. And so, and if I do that, I usually look at what's around it. What could be, with funnel deer movement? Is there 2 fields on either side and there's a line, and they're going to come right down those trees to that, thicket of woods. And that's kind of some of the ways that I hunt public land is, be creative about my approach. Get there early. If I need to really understand other hunters. And then really look for out of the way spots, but don't wear myself out thinking that I got to walk so far, or I gotta go find this hidden gem. I have this rule about hunting public land that there are no secret spots. If you have that rule, you're always going to kind of feel comfortable if somebody walks in on you. And it happens. I mean, turkey season, I had 3 guys, we are all hunting the same turkey. And so, but that brings to my next point when it comes to hunting public land. Don't be afraid to talk to people at the parking lot. If I pull up and there's 4 or 5 cars, I will sometimes, go hunt somewhere close to the car and then get out before them and just hang out until they all show up and talk to them. It's surprising how much information people will give you when you're sitting at a parking lot. And I think it just goes back to that whole hunter community. We are a community. We're all doing something we love. And they're willing to share it. And a lot of times it also helps because they want to know where you're hunting. You want to know where they're hunting, and they're not going to step on your toes. It just allows everybody not to cause any friction or walk in on anybody or something like that. So don't be nervous about talking to someone in the parking lot. And, and then I'd say the other thing about public land that I do is I'm mobile. I will constantly be scouting. And the reason that I'm constantly scouting is because the deer movements are going to change probably a lot more on public land based on people than they necessarily would on private land. And so you want to be scouting, you want to be looking at what they're doing, why they're moving that way or doing what it is that they're doing. And then when I find hot sign, I hunt it within 24, 48 hours because there's no telling what that deer, if that movement's going to change. Early season, I'm hunting food, and then, it might be hunting trails later in the season during the rut. And then I'm hunting late season food or bedding or, something like that later on. So, and I would say scout all season, be willing to scout, be mobile, and just be patient, be persistent, and be willing to learn. Those are, go ahead.
I think that's where a lot of people go wrong when they go deer hunting or turkey hunting for that matter, but deer hunting a lot. So pretty much all year, I might sit the same place maybe twice, maybe 3 times, but I'll give you a little story. One of the bigger deer I've ever hunted was 2 years ago, and that deer got killed last year. He was off a half mile on somebody else's property, but I hunted that deer because I saw him the first day of bow season, and I hunted him. The first day I saw him and I saw 7 other deer. I went back the next day, I saw 5 deer. I hunted him a third day and I saw 1 deer. So whether they blow at you or whether they run off and flag or whatever, those deer know you're there. They're not dumb. You leave ground scent everywhere you step. So the more you hunt an area, the more you're blowing that area out. And so what I've learned is, and it helps you if you're on public land, right? So if you're on public land and you realize you can't hunt the spot more than twice, you need to keep moving. You need to keep scouting. That's the way you kill big deer. You track them down. You get in the game. You don't sit in the same spot all year long hoping that one's just going to walk by you. You got to get in the game, get on the deer, and the only way you're going to get on them is to learn what they're doing by scouting and track that deer down. So keep scouting all year. Scout your way in, scout your way out. And if you see hot sign, big rubs on a big ridge, or a finger sticking off of a ridge, big rubs, that's a rub line that's been opened up by a buck. And if it's a new rubs, that's hot sign, get on it. Scrapes, I'm not a huge scrape hunter. Some people are. If it's a new scrape that's been opened up, I say throw a stand at it. Funnels on public land, big ridges that, are 20 yards wide. Deer don't travel on the top of those ridges, get off on the side of them, on the leeward side, not the windy side, but the leeward side. Deer travel those and get into that funnel. If there's a big cut coming up onto that ridge, he's not going to go down the cut and back up. He's going to skirt the edge of that cut. So get on those funnels, especially in the rut. So scout in, scout out, hunt funnels. That's how you break down, to me, and look for diversity. Look for edges. Deer are edge animals, just like Nathan said. They're not big woods animals. They want to be on the edge as much as they can.
And I'd say too, when you're hunting, let's just talk about bow season, for example. I'm in bow season is about the only time I spend a majority of the time in the tree. So I'm going to be kind of stuck into hunting that spot when I commit to it that day, that tree. But I watch what the deer are doing. And if the deer are coming from a certain area while I'm hunting them, and maybe I'm off a little bit or whatever, and I can't get a shot, I'm not going to hunt that same tree the next day. I'm going to go toward where they were coming out or where they were going in. And the next day, if I get a chance to hunt, or 2 days later, I'm going to scoot further in, and so on and so on. And so what I say that to say, like, if you're hunting a spot and you scout it, let's say you scout it before season and there's deer in there. The day one, you have 2 or 3 days that you're going to hunt. You don't necessarily have to go right dead center in that and hunt them. Hunt the edge of it, because you may blow them all out if you step in there and get too far in. So get right to the edge where the sign looks fresh and looks good, and hunt and see what the deer are doing and how they're moving. You might find out that you climb up and you're right on the sweet spot, or you're just a little ways off, and then the very next day. And the other thing is, these deer on public land, they have to work harder to stay safe. And so they will use this. If they use a trail and it's safe, they will use it again and use it again until it's not safe. And that's one thing I will say, that on public land that I've seen different on private land where I've hunted it, is trails can be a lot more predictable. If you don't blow them out and they don't smell human scent.
Yep. Another thing to look at, Nathan's more of a West Tennessee flatlander, and I'm more of a Cumberland Plateau, East Tennessee kind of fella. If you're looking for deer on WMAs that have topography, more than the 250 foot bench at Chickasaw. We're talking 1,500, 2,000 foot hills in Cumberland Plateau and in East Tennessee. Deer love ends of points, you know, not the main ridge points, but spurs that stick off. So that's where the bucks are going to bed. That's where you focus your attention. So if you can find diversity close to those spurs that stick off the end of these main ridges, that's where I start looking. So find edges close to one of those spurs, and or a funnel in the rut. So that's how I break down those large tracts that are just rolling topography up here. So like Standing Stone in northern on the northern Cumberland Plateau. Standing Stone is not going to have a great deal of edge, but it does have a lot of topography. And the deer focus their attention on the ends of those spurs that stick off of main ridges. So that's what you need to focus on those type of areas. Chickasaw have big cutovers, or, you know, those areas get logged. And so it's got a lot of edge, whereas Standing Stone, not so much. Cheatham has big ridges on it as well. So focus on those ends of points. The timber up there is about as big as I've ever seen any timber in the world. And so it's hard to log those areas. They do get logged, but it's not going to have the edge like Chickasaw does. So look for points.
Well, you know, we talk about I'm a flatlander, but you look at, you know, West Tennessee, there's something that you have flooding out there. That river gets up. You get over Wolf River WMA, you get over in Shelby, the Shelby Park area, Meeman Shelby Park. Watch those flood levels. And if it floods, there's going to be a lot of areas where you can hug the edge of that water and to hunt those deer. And the other thing I would say about OnX, and we talk about scouting and we're talking about how to hunt a place. One of the reasons I say stay mobile too is you're scouting all year long. You're going to find food sources that become food sources after the rut. You might find that black oaks are dropping a little bit later. And so they become what every deer is hitting. And we know that bucks, after the rut's over, they need to start putting pounds back on. So, you know, look at those things. If you find them, mark them. Maybe you missed the moment this year, but you know where it is next season. And I've got a couple spots this year that I know that I'll be looking at come this season. And you go back to the notes. I have notes of the date that I found them. So, you know, think about that. And then something else, and if you have the means for this, and some people are, you know, you got to be careful with public land, but I would say if you have cell cameras and you find spots that are good, get a lock, put them up high, put them where, you know, if you got to carry a climbing stick with you, get it up where you can watch that place. I think another part for me that's really changed, you know, some of the places I hunt is that cell cameras, because then I don't have to step back. I don't have to go back there until I'm ready. And so just something to consider. But make sure you take a lock. You want to lock them up, take care of your stuff. And then I wanted to bring this up, and this is something that I think a lot of people get uncomfortable with, but it's Facebook groups. And there's Facebook groups. I'm a part of a ton of them, deer hunting and everything. But I will ask questions about public land. And some people, and I say you got to have thick skin when you ask questions on there, because some people aren't nice about it. But there's also a lot of people out there that will give you advice. And so don't be intimidated by it. It's just another tool and another way for you to learn. And there's a lot of people out there that want new hunters and want hunters to be successful. And it's be surprising how many people, people that have been hunting a spot 14, 15 years, and man, they know it. And they'll say, go to this spot right here. So just other things out there. So.
Yeah. All right. So if we were to recap your checklist, and I'm finding out that your checklist is exactly the same as mine, and I think all good hunters have this same checklist, and what they do is they do their homework before they even get out there. It's not like they find public ground and they say, well, I'm just going to go out there and wing it. Now, my dad did that growing up, and my dad wasn't very successful. So uh, I've tried to bring a little bit more of a scientific approach, a logical approach in how to get on deer, and I don't get out there and just hang a tree stand over a trail and just hope and pray that a deer comes by. So what I do exactly what Nathan does. I find public land close to me within an hour drive. I get on that TWRA toolbox. You can use that. You do have to be careful, right? So some of the harvest reporting is not going to be exactly right. So if you get on there and you look at Old Hickory's harvest reporting, it's going to look like it's very low. And it might scare you off and say, well, there's no deer out there. What you have to remember is Old Hickory WMA is hard to get to. And most of it you can't get to unless you're in a boat. That place is overrun with deer. It's overrun with everything because unfortunately no one in Hendersonville and Mount Juliet hunt these animals, but they're out there and they're not getting reported as harvested because nobody's hunting it. So when you go somewhere and you look at one of those toolbox reports for a WMA, take everything with a grain of salt and think about it. So if you look at Chickasaw, you can take those numbers to the bank. If an animal is harvested there, you can bet you can take that number and extrapolate it out and say, well, there's a great deal of animals out there, or there's not so many. But if you look at Old Hickory WMA or Center Hill, Edgar Evans, or the core land around Center Hill, the core land around Tim's Ford, the WMA down there, take those numbers with a grain of salt because it's hard to get to them. There's not a great deal of hunters out there for the 2,000 acres or the 6,000 acres on Center Hill. So take that all with a grain of salt. But normally you take that number on the toolbox and say, well, there's a lot of animals being killed here. That means there's a lot of pressure here, right? If there's not a lot of animals being killed, it could be two things. It's not a lot of animals there at all, or it's not got hunting pressure at all. So that's how you need to look at those two things. So get on the website, look for public ground where you live, go to the toolbox, find out if there are a great number of animals being taken, if it's getting a lot of pressure like Percy Priest or Cheatham, things like that. And then what I do, just like Nathan, is I get on Onyx before I ever step out there. If you step foot on 8,000 acres, how are you ever going to efficiently hunt that without doing your homework and getting on Onyx and tracking down these areas and putting a pin on them as to where you want to go and check out? So you got to break it down into segments and break it down by where is the diversity, what's going to hold deer. Edges. Edge means food to a deer. Deer are, I think of them like goats. They're more like goats than they are cattle. So they don't eat grass. They eat twigs and branches, and the smaller edge habitat holds a lot more food than just large timber. So think about it that way. And then if I don't see diversity, you can play around with that Onyx map. You can use just topography, or you can use topography and satellite, or topography and just overlay just a photo of the ground. And I like using the topography, especially in eastern Middle Tennessee and going toward East Tennessee, because I know deer hang on points. So that's what I use. If I'm in West Tennessee, I use more of just the photographic overlay on OnX so I can find edges. And then after all that, I get boots on the ground and I go to the pins that I've found, and that's what Nathan does as well. And he looks at it and determines, is this a good place? Will this be a good place come hunting season? Is this a good funnel? And so forth. Now, Nathan, I'm sure you can talk about this, but if you're going out there and scouting right now, the deer normally are not going to be where you're scouting. If they're in a particular location right now, they're probably not going to be there come late October, early November, right? Can you explain that? What's going on there?
Well, I mean, right now, deer are going to really restrict their movements. They're, especially bucks. Bucks are growing their horns. They need food. They don't need to move a lot. It's hot, so they're going to be in shady areas, and they're not going to move much for food. Doe are going to be the same way because they've got fawns with them, trying to keep them safe. So really, what I do this time of year is I'm going to be out there, and let's say I'm looking at a field. I'm looking at a soybean field, and I can tell that they're coming in there. I may set a camera just inside the woods, and if I see deer moving into this field, 10 o'clock at night, well, I know that they're probably, way back in those woods. And so I'm gonna go further back as the season progresses. As we get into early bow season, I'm gonna move further back into those woods looking for the oaks, because honestly, I think I heard one time, and I'm not 100% sure, Mike, you might be able to see it, but I think deer have to feed 6 times a day. They have to get on their feet and feed 6 times a day. So they're feeding all day long, really, if you think about it. Yep. And so when you consider that, as the oaks start dropping, and you're going to have, and you're going to have persimmons, and you think about your early food, I start taking that trail that they're coming in on, and I start going further back and further back, and may find beds. And I'm like, okay, good, I'm going to hunt there. But I'd really just try this time of year. I'm trying to find trails that are heavy use trails, because the undergrowth is going to be high. And so you're going to be able to figure out which trails they're using, because there's not going to be a plant growing on that trail. And then I walk it back. And at this time of year, I don't mind blowing deer out of a spot. But once I get back there, I'm going to look for old rubs. I'm going to look for maybe kind of an open area, high grass, something that they're bedding in. I might look for old acorns, or where maybe I'm just seeing a bunch of calves or something like that. So I know that looks like there's some feeding going on in there. And this is all year-old sign. But if you're finding rubs, and you might even find a scrape this time of year. But if you're finding sign, then that's an area you want to go back to come bow season, come, October, November, and check it out. Maybe you want to hang a camera now and see what's going on. But those are the things that's kind of what I'm looking for this time of year.
Yeah, and that's all good. I also mainly use, you can go out there during the summer, look at the fields, and I do, where the deer are right now is normally not where they're going to be in the fall. So if they're in these fields eating on soybeans, they're not going to be there in October, November. It's really deer shift, and they shift locations, and it's mainly, I think, due to a shift in what they eat. So if they're eating soybeans in late August, early September, those soybeans start drying up pretty good, by late September. So it's a shift in what they're eating. And so like Nathan said, they start shifting toward acorns that are dropping, other things that are happening. And so you just have to shift with them. And if you're scouting right now and expecting that same deer to be in that field in October, you're going to be mistaken. So what I do is if I've got trail cameras out right now, or if I'm out there looking in these fields, what I'm really doing is just taking an inventory as to what is on that property. So if I'm out at Chickasaw and I'm looking in one of the nearby private fields and looking at the soybeans out there, and I see a major deer that I want to hunt, I focus in on that area, and that's where I'm going to hunt. I'm just using it as inventory that that deer is in that area, not in that field. So use it as inventory and nothing else.
Yeah, and I've been doing the same. I've been out glassing fields for the last, I don't know, 2 weeks. So it's about knowing what's in the area and what's going on. And then I'm just a big fan of getting in the woods this time of year and seeing what's going on. Again, you might find hidden spots that you didn't realize.
Yeah. All right. I'm answering some of these questions real fast, Nathan.
Yeah, you're good.
Anyway, so inventory your deer. If another very good tip that a lot of people don't know, but is something that you need to keep in the back of your mind. The deer know where the pressure is coming from. So, or all animals know where the pressure is coming from. And so that doesn't mean, like Nathan said, that the deer won't sit directly up on top of a hill overlooking the parking lot, because they do. But a lot of deer are killed very close to private. A lot of turkeys are killed very, very close to private. And I know for a fact a lot of personalities that we see on TV kill a lot of public land animals very close to private, just on the other side of the fence. Matter of fact, I think Stephen Ranella had a meat eater episode where he was looking at the fence and waiting on the turkey to jump over that fence or climb under it one. So don't be scared of private. The border is there for a reason. Don't cross it. But it's public land all the way up to that fence or up to that yellow marking. So don't be scared.
And I think, talking about that, we talk about creatures of edge, and we talk about that fences, getting and knowing the boundary. I would encourage, if you're hunting a spot that's close to the boundary, go figure out where that fence is. But you'd be surprised at where you can find the movement based on that fence. There might be a break in the fence. It could be that there's, a tree's dropped it down, and that's where the deer are crossing. And so whenever I hunt a place, I will go, if I found an area that I like and it's close to the border, I go walk over there and find out where that border is, one, just so I'm aware. And two, I'll walk that fence line and see if I can find a place that funnels the movement. And so, yeah, I mean, like I just said a little while ago, you might find a 3 or 4 acre little parcel that is public land that's just kind of hidden, and maybe there's houses being built all around it. If you're hunting close to a metro and you get in there and you find out that there's deer in there. And I've done that, I did that last year and killed deer, last year in spots like that. So, but I think when it comes to public land, it's, do your, as you say, do your homework, but then also get out there and enjoy it. And, when you look at on X and you look at the public land that we have, and we're talking a lot about deer hunting, but you can, I hunt ducks, turkey, squirrel. I hunt it all primarily on public land. And I hunted it all this year on public land and was successful. And so it's all out there. And the great thing about public land too is that the state is sitting there trying to make it better for wildlife and working. So they're doing what they can to make sure that that wildlife is there. So I think as you get out there and you start hunting, you'll be surprised at what you can hunt out there. And then you have a tool like OnX, start marking it. You find a pond, like I said, ducks are falling into, mark it. Might be a spot to go check out once duck season opens. Or, you see a flock of turkeys in an area, mark it. Be a spot to come look at it come spring. So.
Yeah, so all of our public land turkey hunting that we did this past spring, we went to Pea Ridge, we went to Cheatham, we went to Old Hickory, we went to Priest. At Pea Ridge and Old Hickory, we ran into loads of deer. And so I can promise you, I will be back on those places come this fall, because I saw deer. I saw more deer than I saw turkeys this year hunting those places. So went out there to turkey hunt and found a new place to deer hunt. So keep your eyes open.
Does anybody have any questions specifically maybe about OnX, some of the features within OnX that they would like me to kind of touch base on? What I can tell you, we've talked about the topography. I'll pull my screen back up. I want to show one more thing, show some of the other features on this. Let me share. Oh, we do. Okay. Yeah, so typical price range is, I'm going to get this for you real quick.
What is it, like $50 or something like that?
Well, I gotta look. So you can buy, so it's $29.99 per year for one state. And if you want to do the premium, it would be $100. Or sorry, that's for the elite. But like I said, I know of most hunting personalities and celebrities have some sort of discount code that will give you some sort of discount. I don't know what it is to OnX. So highly encourage you, if you're following any of those, to just go on the website, their YouTube page, and see. I'm sure they have it posted on their YouTube page.
Yeah. I've got a question in the chat that asks about overlooked small parcels of land. I know that there are small parcels here in Hendersonville, Tennessee, a suburb of Nashville, that get no hunting pressure whatsoever. And matter of fact, one of the bigger deer in Tennessee was killed on this public parcel several years ago, and made the papers because that deer was poached behind one of the car washes. So small parcels hold very, very large animals. And, what you'll want to do is get on the edge of them and, don't hunt in somebody's front yard, but get on the edge, deer edge animals, and that's where they're going to be. That's where they'll stage, because they can see everything coming at them. So I put together a class last fall on how these deer set up, and how they set up based upon wind and based upon topography or edges. And go back on our YouTube channel and look at that. It's I think it's in-depth deer hunting or something like that, and using topography to your advantage. Deer set up just like a soldier would set up, and he's not going to sit in the dead center of a big timber stand and wonder where the pressure is going to come from. He's going to get on the edge and he's going to see everything coming at him, and he's going to set up with a wind to his back. So he's going to smell everything behind him and see everything coming at him. So think of a deer like a little soldier. He's not going to stick himself where he has no idea where the pressure is coming from. He's going to use topography and get on the end of a point where nothing can get up after him, or he's going to get on the edge of a clearing where he can see everything coming at him, especially in a little point sticking out into the middle of a field or something like that. So think of these deer like little soldiers, and you'll be a lot further ahead than most people.
I see somebody was asking about who would be some of the social media or people that, maybe hunt Tennessee that'd be worth following. I tell you, person I like is Catman. Catman Outdoors. He hunts a lot of Tennessee. He fishes a lot of Tennessee, and he might be somebody that you might be worth, following or watching what they're doing.
Yeah. Look at our, follow us on Facebook. We put our videos, like I started doing those turkey videos last year. I've done lots of in-depth deer hunting videos on how deer set up on points and set up in fields and things like that. You can learn how to hunt by watching some of the videos that we've put out, or watching some of these classes that we did last year. So do that. We also, I put in the chat a little while ago, I have, there's a program in Tennessee called the Hunting and Fishing Academy, and they teach people how to hunt and fish. So they're with the Tennessee Wildlife Federation, and you can look those guys up online too. We got a guy here saying the Hunting Public is a good channel. The Hunting Public is about as good as it gets. If you want to know how to hunt animals, that they can absolutely teach you. Also, don't let everybody know that they were hunting on the shores of the Cumberland River. So, but also Dan Infalt, his Infalt, INFALT.
The Hunting Beast.
Yeah, if you guys really want to learn how to hunt deer, get on this website called thehuntingbeast.com and just soak in all of those guys' knowledge and just start trying things that they're doing. Get in the game on these deer instead of sitting out on the edge of a field and hoping one will walk by. Follow that Dan Infalt and the Hunting Beast. Best way to hunt deer I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Is there a top public land caution and what the most thing missing from a backpack? Okay, I think the biggest caution on hunting public land is, I think Nathan brought it up a little while ago. If you see somebody, don't just, avert your eyes and walk the other way. Talk to them. I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't talk to your fellow hunters, especially if you see them at the trailhead or you run into them when you're hunting. I did it on camera. No, we didn't do it on camera, but Pea Ridge, when we killed that turkey on Pea Ridge earlier this year, when we did the video and we put that video out on public land, there were 2 hunters there from Indiana. We talked to them and made sure where they were going and what they would be doing all day, so we didn't run on them and they didn't run on us. So if I had one big caution for public land, talk to people, because you're just going to ruin each other's hunts and waste your whole day and be away from your family for no reason if you don't talk with one another. Nathan, what's your big caution? I know I took yours.
No, I'd say big caution is I if well yeah you don't get intimidated by just by hunting public land. It's um, I have had so much success about with hunting public land, and it really shouldn't be intimidated, but there are intimidating, but there's a lot of people that are. I would say get out there. To Mike's point, you meet somebody, talk to them, but get out there and learn. You don't if you don't want to buy OnX, not saying you're suggesting OnX, it's just something that I did, but you can get the same information. Before I had OnX, I got the same information from Google Earth. You can get it from your Apple Maps. You can look for the same stuff. So, and so I get out there and just learn, be patient, be persistent. And then I'd also say probably another thing is manage your expectations. Don't, if you're just first starting out hunting public land, don't expect you're going out there and going to kill a Boone and Crockett. You got to get out there and learn what that place is doing and what the deer are doing. Talk to people and just really like learn. I'm constantly learning. The place I came from, and I hunted a public place for 7 years, and I was still learning while I was there. So just constantly be learning. So I guess that'd probably be mine.
And the next question from Josh, he asked, what is the biggest thing missing from a pack? And let me tell you, I guess this is a good way to get into what is what I carry and what Nathan carries.
Yeah.
I stay mobile. I do carry a stand everywhere I go, but you don't have to. Like Nathan said, you sit on the ground. But I carry a hang-on. I carry 4 sticks. So I've got, actually, they're the Hunting Beast sticks. And I've got a Lone Wolf tree stand and the Hunting Beast sticks. I don't make enough money to carry the Lone Wolf tree stand yet. So we'll see if I can get that. But so I carry that tree stand. It's right at, I think, 12 pounds. And then the sticks are another, say, I don't know, 4 pounds at most. So I try and keep it light. And then, so that's what I carry with me, tree stand and stick wise, and I can get roughly 20 something feet up a tree with that. And with those sticks and that stand, I can climb any tree in the world. It doesn't matter if it's straight up and has no limbs on it, or if it looks like a fish hook and it has 100 limbs on it, I can climb it. That's the difference between a climber and one of those with sticks. So you can pick any tree you want. Next, what I make sure and do, I have two ropes with me, and they're just paracord. One is to bring up my bow or bring up my rifle, and the other is to bring up my pack. And in my pack, and each of those paracords are in separate pockets, and they're both about 25 feet long. I don't carry any more than I need to carry. And then the pack is a very, very light, cheap. I think the pack is maybe $19 from REI. It's a black nylon pack, and I bet it weighs 12 ounces. I mean, it's super light. I put, if I'm bow hunting, I have my binoculars and my rangefinder in my chest pack. Otherwise, in the pack itself, I carry my knife, and that's knife, and that's about. Oh, I carry a knife and what do they call that thing, Nathan? I got one of those ozonics machines. So I carry ozonics machines, which I'm telling you guys, that thing works. I've seen it work. So I carry both of those things, and that's about all I carry. I don't need much else. My release is on my wrist. All the ammunition, if I'm carrying a rifle, that I need is in the rifle. I don't carry a box of ammunition. If I'm shooting more than one time at a deer, I've messed up. So that's what I carry. What about you, Nate?
In my pack, so during bow season, I usually carry a fanny pack, and things I always have to have if it's bow season: my release, my bow, binoculars, rangefinder. Feel like I can pretty much survive if I forget something else. But then in my fanny pack, I'm usually going to have a strap on so it doesn't screw into the tree, some sort of strap on hook that I can hang my bow on, or hang my arrow quiver, or hang something on. I'm going to have my stand. I'm going to have at least 2 climbing sticks, might have 3. I'm toying with going to a saddle this year. It's all the craze, and I don't know if I want to jump on the craze yet, but toying with it. But, that's in something I would tell you, again, this is hunting public land. You're hunting with a lot of, where these deer get educated. I take my stand and I carry a little pouch with those, what do they call it? Basically, they're rubber little ties. And I make my pack, my stand and stick so tight that I can shake it and it's not going to make any noise. And that's key, is you want to go in there. And when I go in slow, taking my time if I can, and make sure that I'm not making any noise. And, that's that. But during gun season, I'm going to have those same things minus the bow and release. I'm going to have my gun, and I have a backpack. I'm usually going to have an extra jacket because I get hot walking in. I'm going to have shooting sticks, and I might have some snippers to where if I'm going to sit down in a tree or something like that, and I need to cut a small limb so I can see, might do that. That's pretty much, what I have to have in my pack.
And finally, I just typed an answer to it, but we have a question about camouflage. And truthfully, guys, I don't think camouflage really matters, not to a deer. To turkeys, it absolutely does. But deer, they see, from what I understand, I'm not a biologist, like I said, I'm a lawyer. But from what I understand, they see grays, whites, blacks, and they see a color spectrum that we don't see. And mainly that comes in the form of blues. Yeah. So, so that's why when I go in the morning, I use a red tinted light. I don't use yellow light. So deer have a really hard time, from what I understand, seeing red. So I use red light going in the morning. I don't wear blue. I know Dan Inflaut, the guy we were talking about that runs the Hunting Beast, he hunts in blue jeans and a flannel shirt. So, and he's killed some of the biggest deer that anybody ever wants to kill. So camo is not a big deal when you're hunting deer. Now, I think it is a big deal getting the right clothing to remain comfortable. And so that's where actually paying for good hunting clothing, I think, matters. It does make me a lot more comfortable. I really love hot weather. Today, 100 degrees doesn't bother me a bit. If it is below 30 degrees, I think I'm going to die. So I think it absolutely helped me hunt by remaining comfortable. And I'm not sponsored or anything by them, but First Light clothing, it's wool. And I've never been more comfortable these last several years. I've been using that. Use all the merino wool clothing you can find. It doesn't have to come from First Light, but man, it's been a game changer for me. And then my feet, I use rubber boots it does, I believe, keep some of the scent down. And two, once I get in the tree, my feet used to be a major problem for me. And I found these over boots. I don't know what else you would call them, but they're have you seen them, Nathan? They're just, they look like big booties. And so I stick them on, and my feet never get cold because I stick them on, and then I throw a heat warmer in on top of the boot inside the bootie, and I have no problem. So merino wool clothing, get some booties if your feet are freezing, and I'm super comfortable now.
Yeah, when it comes to camo for me, I mean, I'll hunt in that old army camo sometimes, and I still got a couple pairs of pants that I do. But yeah, I can't. To your point, I don't think camo's a crazy deal when it comes to deer, opposed to turkeys. I mean, early bow season, I'll be in a short sleeve shirt, in the tree because it's so hot, and like I said, I sweat. But yeah, it's I think when it comes to hunting deer, it's movement. You just really control your movement, if you see them walking toward you or anything like that, deer see really good out of the side of their eyes, and when they're slightly turning, so they can be walking straight at you and you might be able to get away with movement, but as soon as they turn sideways, you're stop.
Yeah, and you can get away with very, very slow movement.
Yeah.
But and when I say very, very slow, super slow, you can walk up on a deer, and I've done it before, and that's what still hunting is, super slow moving through the woods. But if you're walking or moving your hands around, and especially if you're on the ground and not in a stand, you're going to get picked off pretty easy. Brown or black shirt, which is better? I don't think it, maybe black. I don't think it really matters because, like I said, they just see black, gray, and white anyway. So
yeah.
Do the mountain state forest have less deer than the lower WMA hunts? Don't really know. You would get, I don't hunt. I guess that's probably way up east Tennessee. I'm not real sure. I would get on that Hunter's Toolbox, and that's where you'll be able to answer that question. Nathan,
give me a WMA that's over there. I'll look and see if there's a harvest report.
Let's see. Let me see here. Give me just a second.
Might be able to find it on NoneX real quick.
North Cherokee.
North Cherokee?
Yeah, North Cherokee. Chuck Swan.
So Chuck Swan, I looked at earlier. Chuck Swan, 119 deer killed this year. 97 of them were antlered deer or bucks. I don't know why I said antlered deer. I guess I'm reading this. But, I've heard those rumors or that before, that you're going to see more deer in flatter country versus the hills. And I don't think that's true. Just different way of hunting them. They can hide a lot better. They can be on one side of the ridge and you're on the other, where if you're hunting West Tennessee and you're looking at a 500-acre field, you can see a lot of deer across there. So I think it's just difference, but I really think there's a bunch of deer out that way too.
Yeah, and you just got to be in the right spot. Deer use topography, and if you're hunting up on top of the ridges, deer are smart. They're not going to be where most people are. People are on top of the ridges. Trails are on top of the ridges. Deer are off the side of the ridge. So if you're not off the side, you're not going to see them like you would think that you would. Some of the best deer hunters, you'll never see them because they're 30 yards off the side of the ridge and you're up on top. So but Nathan, we are down to it, and I think this has been a pretty good class about public land, what to look for, how you went about finding public land, which is the same scenario that I've seen most good hunters go through. They do their homework and know what they're looking at before they ever get out there, and then just pretty much prove to themselves what they've already seen. So I think that's ultra good. Guys, I've got Nathan. He's going to come out with me later this fall, hopefully do some bow hunting on some of the area WMAs and show how it's done, just like we did the turkey hunting. And hopefully that'll work out. But I want everybody to understand that we do this, and I've had Nathan on here, but the agency does this because we really, really want people to learn how to hunt and fish and shoot their rifles or their shotguns or their pistols here in Tennessee. So we're making an overt effort to reach out to everyone and get them outdoors. And to me, it's one of the better ways to spend time with your family. So I know I take my little girls, I've got 3, I take them fishing all the time. My wife goes with us. She's not so much on the fishing, but she loves laying out. So, but I think it's a great family activity, and we want everyone to get out there and do it. And we do these type of Zoom classes all the time. So follow us on Facebook if you want to see when we do these classes, and don't just scan us away. Look and see what we're doing, what Zoom class it is. Get on our YouTube and see all the Zoom classes we did last year. I think I did 26 of them from September to January or February of last year. So lots of classes out there, especially on deer hunting. Lots of classes that we have going on how to bass fish. I've got one next week on how to fish grass on Nickajack, Chickamauga, Gunnersville, and Alabama. Anywhere you want to fish grass, we've got grass out here on Old Hickory again. So get out there, go fishing, go hunting, learn how to shoot, and we'll be right there to help you do it. So if you have questions, drop me a line. Everybody's got my email, and I'm sure Nathan, I can drop him a line, and he'd be happy to help you out too. But you'll be seeing more of us and hopefully more deer from us.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you again for letting me be a part of this. I've really enjoyed it. I hope I've been able to give some good information to everybody. And, get out there and do it. Get out there and hunt something, learn something about it. These places are amazing. And I just want to say, I hope I see you there. So if you see me, say hi. I'll tell you what I know.
Yeah, super nice guy. That's the way I met him. So, Nathan, thank you so much. Everybody go Outdoors Tennessee, get your license, get outdoors.